What I want to do is let's turn off lighting for a second. Is I want to create some rain in our environment. So I'm going to right click in here. What I did is I also cleaned up my scene a little bit. I added all the VFX objects under one section, a lot of the models in the environment section, so we can kind of throw all these in there too. So just kind of, just cleaning this up. So these are just empty game objects. I right clicked, created empty, named it VFX, and dragged this stuff. So what I want to do too is I'm going to right click in here, go to effects, and create a particle system because we're going to create some rain in this video. And just kind of place it here or something. And then just name this rain particle system. Okay, so I'm going to right click on the position here. Let's see. Or on the transform, hit reset, just so that I know all of those values are reset. And I'm just going to set the position to just over here, so because it goes inside the house. But just so we know that all of the other positions are set to 1, 1, 1. And then what I want to do under the shape here is I don't want it to be a cone. I want it to be a box. And the reason for that is if we play with the scale of the box, we can cover a lot more area. See that? Like I can say, oh, I want it to essentially cover like this. There's only rain above the house. Like that's part of my narrative or something. So I make this like 10 by 10. You can see that's the area that I want the water to come down on. So let's just position that sort of this way. That way we get the house and a little bit of the front here. And honestly, we could just parent it to the character or to the camera, and so we're always seeing rain, and it's falling around everywhere we go. But yeah, so let me take my game window and just position it up here so we can get more of our scene view here. So then what we can do is to make our rain fall is we can do velocity over lifetime, expand that out. And then you could see under linear here, we'll have it go random between two curves or two constants rather. And what you'll notice is as you decrease the value because we're going down, you can make it go down. So it's going off at an angle, so we need to adjust it. But if we do minus 10 and minus 10, depending on the scale of your scene, I kind of want it to be minus 20, minus 20. We might have to go minus 30, but there we go. Now it's falling more towards this direction. I mean, it depends. The higher you go, the more straight it'll go down. So if we even did minus 30 and minus 30, we're getting more straight down. It's just really up to you, your preference. Now our particles look more like snowflakes. So under the renderer here, there's this render mode. If we do a stretch billboard, it'll look more like stretched raindrops. Now our raindrops are a little huge. So let's go up here where it says 3D start size. And we're going to check that on. And then we're going to do random between two constants here. And that's going to give us a random value as we, that'll help us with a random value that we can adjust the size. Right now they're set to 1 to 1, so that's not really random. They're the exact same size. All right, so for the width, we can try 0.1 and 0.1. And then for the length, we can do maybe 2 to really stretch it out. And we could also turn off selection outline here so we could see our rain a little better. And that's looking a little bit more like rain. I mean, they're really long raindrops, which I don't mind because it kind of adds a little stylized effect. We do have a robot in our scene. Let's make sure we're saving this too. All right, so let's go here and let's just clear out our start speed 2 to 0. And now they're not really randomly, they're all moving at the exact same rate. Now you can see that it's going through our plane here. So let's just take our start lifetime, make it 1, and then restart that. 0.5 maybe? It's a little bit better. And that way it's not having to draw all of those particles through the ground. But in a second, anyway, we're going to be setting it up for collision so that it bounces off the surface of these objects. Now, this is more stylized. Like you can see, they look almost like metal rods. You can take the color here and you can make it about 50% if you want. And that'll make it look more like soft rain. Again, that's really up to you, depending on how you want your scene to look. Now, we're not getting a lot of rain out of here. So what we can do is go to the emission tab and say we set this to 200. And now you can see we get a lot of rain here, which is pretty nice. And also, let me see. We go to our emitter shape. I wonder if I should just make this 20 by 20. And that'll cover a lot more area. Just for now. Because say our camera, let's see how it looks in our game. Yeah, and if we have it kind of parented, or like we write a script where we have the rain particle following our character around, that looks a lot better. But that rain is really huge. And I don't want to get too into the sticks about this, but if we do 0.5 to 1 maybe, yeah, that's a lot thinner on the y-axis, so that looks a little bit better. Okay, let's save this. I don't want to get it too far into tweaking in these tutorials because then that ends up making the entire video twice as long, but I'll let you guys play with those values. All right, let's make our essentially our sorry, our rain a lot more realistic by taking the color over lifetime. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to add 2 points here, and for this first point here, I'm going to take that alpha down to 0, and then this one will bring it up a little bit. And what that's going to do is it's going to fade out the top of the raindrop, and then it's going to make the bottom more pronounced. And actually, let's undo that. I want to make the tip of this. Let me delete this guy too. I'm just hitting the delete key. This one I want to be 0. There we go. Now you can see that we have a little bit of fall off on each end. And if you don't like it, you can play with, the amount of that. If you don't like the look, just. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want it to bounce off of all of these objects that have a collider. So turn on collision, and I want it to bounce with not just specific planes, because you can add specific planes, which will help with render time. But for now, our scene isn't that intensive, so we're going to change it from planes to world. And now it's bouncing off of everything in the world. It's probably a little bit more pronounced on the roof here. You can see how it's like just kind of bouncing off the world, the roof, the ground. Doesn't seem like it's bouncing too much off of the terrain, and I wonder if that's because of the terrain collider here. I'll have to look into that, but it's definitely bouncing off of this. We could probably. Oh no, it looks like it's bouncing off of the guy though, for sure. No, it's bouncing. It's just very. I don't know. Anyway, so let's focus more on this house for now, and that is pretty intense. Like it looks like they're almost like bullets bouncing off. Right. So if we go to our collision section here, there's a few things you can do. If we take our dampen and we sort of move it up a little bit, you can see it gets even smaller splashes. See that? Like a little bit less bounce. So it's up to you. If we make it 0.1, it has a lot of bounce. And as we move all the way up to 1 here, it has no bounce. But what it's doing is it's still registering the collisions. And the real reason we're using this is because we're going to add like a little splash circle wherever it hits the surface. If you want to, you can make it like 0.9 if you wanted a little bit of a bounce like that, because this adds more of a cartoony effect. It's really up to you. Same thing like this, lifetime loss. If we take this to maybe 0.5 here, you'll see they sort of die off, like half of them sort of die off before they hit. It's really, it's up to you how you do that. But if we make lifetime loss 1, same thing, they'll all be gone, You just get little stuff there. You can also make this 0 if you want, and you can make it less bouncy. So bounce is set to 1 now. If we make it 0.5, you could see they just kind of bounce a little bit. What I'm going to do is right now is I'm just going to make this 1, and I'm going to make my bounce 0 because I just really want it to register the hit on the collision of the surface and not go through, you know, and that's going to be where we draw our circle particles on the surface. All right, so here on subemitters, I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to expand this out. And what happens is we can make a subemitter do nothing, or when it hits a surface, like it says birth here on collision, we can create another subemitter that spawns, and that's going to be like our little circle. So let's go ahead and if you hit this little plus, it'll create a particle system for us right here. And let's see. Oh, right here. Boom. Let's actually get rid of this guy. I think it just was lagging, and that's why it took so long when I hit the plus sign to create a subparticle. And now you can see as it hits the surface, everywhere where it's hitting, it's where the collision is happening, it's spawning these little poofs. Now what happens is if you expand this out, you can see that this subemitter is now a child of this one, and we can just name this splash. And let's see. I think that's pretty good. Let's see if we have anything in here. So I'm going to look for circle and see if we have anything that looks like this. So this is a slash circle. I don't know. This is from a particle system site thing. So I'm going to let me go ahead and go into Photoshop, and I'm going to quickly make a circle that we're going to use that's going to appear like it's a splash circle. And actually, I'll show you guys how I do that. All right, so here I am in Photoshop, and I'm going to provide this for you anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and double click this to unlock the background, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to delete these two. So now we have like this clear, essentially this clear box. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go and grab my ellipse tool and just drag out a circle. I'm going to hold shift, and then that color is filled to black. I want to fill that to, let's see. So I want to make that white. And then I'm going to make a new layer underneath this, select this one, and I can hit Control E to do this. Or I think you can just right click and do merge down. And then what I'm going to do is hold Control and click on this, and this selects it. And I'm going to do select, contract, and I'm going to contract it, 10 pixels. And then I'm going to delete the inside. And there's our raindrop circle. And I'll probably make this opacity about 50%. And I'm going to save that to my desktop as a PNG. And then I'll import that into, drop. And I'm going to import that into Unity. That's fine. I don't need the preview. All right, I'm going to go in and create another folder in here. I'm going to just call this VFX2 because I have a VFX folder, and I'm just going to right click, import new asset, and then just grab that texture, which like I said, I'm going to provide you with. There's our raindrop. Let's see, alpha is transparency. Let's hit apply. There we go. So there's our raindrop. So make sure to turn that on, otherwise you won't be able to see it. And then I'm going to right click, create a material, and call that raindrop material. And then I'm going to grab this and drop it on my base map there. And so if I click on this object here, and then we want this to be transparent, and there's our object there. And then I wonder if I could just, let's see, turn that all the way down. There we go, because I don't want it to be shiny. All right, so there's where our splash is. And actually what we want to do is we want to make this into a material So type in particles here, and we want standard particles unlit, and then this will be a texture that it can use in our scene. So let's see, there's transparent. We can make it two-sided if we need to. Yeah, it still shows up, I think. Oh, the rendering mode we want is fade, not transparent. All right, let's save that. All right, so let's go back to our splash subparticle here and make sure to select that one, the splash one, and not the rain particle system. And what we want to look for is essentially, if we go to our renderer here, we have this slot here. Also, let's see if we can. And let's go ahead and drag our raindrop material here. See if it lets us do that. Yeah, just down at the bottom. And that should overwrite the other one. And now what you're seeing is all over the place, wherever it hits, we're getting this kind of like explosion of little raindrop circles. We want it to be on the surface, and we only want one spawning. So let's do that now. Then what we want to do is select our renderer here. There we go. I could have just dragged this raindrop material in there. Sometimes when you click on things in Unity like I was doing, they don't open. So you kind of have to click on other things to get it to go. So you want to drag it in here if this didn't work. And then billboard here, we want horizontal billboard. So now you could see, though, it's exploding off of the surface. It's just not sticking to it. All right, so let's go ahead and set the duration to 2. I had a little freak out there. And then the start lifespan to 2. There we go. And then we can let the start speed be 0 because we don't want them to have any of that real movement. We will do, maybe we'll make them grow out from the center. There we go. So now you can see they're sort of appearing where they fall. They're not appearing where everywhere it collides, and that's okay. We'll work on that a little bit because we can adjust the number of these. You know, because remember when we look at our max particles here, we have like 200 in emission, and under splash here, we want them to appear. We want them to set up the count to the wherever it hits, it has one that's emitting, so we can increase the number later. So let's go up to look for simulation speed. If we make this 2, they'll appear twice as fast, so that'll make them appear a lot quicker. Okay, and you can see they're also kind of hovering off the surface. We're going to have to tackle that. All right, with emission open. Now there's 30 at the time of where they hit. If we change this to 1, we'll have 1 that appears once it hits. So now you can see we get a little bit more of those because and they look a lot lighter. And the reason why they were really white is they were stacking 30 of them on top at a time. So now we're getting water. We're getting little raindrops that match a little bit better. Again, we need to kind of work on that distance from the floor, from the collision. And it's getting some nice, it's picking them up nicely on the ground. And if we go to our game view, it's looking pretty good too. I mean, they're kind of huge, so we're going to have to work on that scale. Right now for the shape here, I don't want it to be a sphere. I want it to be a box. And that's going to give us a little bit more of a flatter appearance than it being on a sphere. And the next thing we're going to do is turn on color over lifetime because I want to do the same thing we did before. They're too crisp here. I want to give them a little bit of fade. So just click in here. Come on. I don't know why this is lagging so much. And then here. So let's make this end piece here 0. Come on. I promise you I have a very powerful computer. I don't know why it's being so crazy. And then there we go. And now it's got a nice soft fall off towards the center. You can play with that if you like move these in a little bit. Oh, created another one. Let's delete this guy. All right, let's save that. Now let's make it grow, which actually, believe it or not, is pretty easy. So if we go to size over lifetime and we check that on, it already has the size going from small to big. So if I click on this, you could see it's going from 0 up. And so now you could see we get those raindrops growing. All right, sorry, I'm getting some collision. So let's look at the final thing that we need to fix, which is, sorry, the crashing, not collision. My mind is all over the place. So anyway, do you see how these circles appear above? So what we're going to do is select our rain particle system, go to the collision section, and you can see there's this radius scale. Let's type in 0 here and see what happens. You can see that we get pretty good results. There's some clipping with the surface, right? Like it's cutting in. Now, it looks much better on the ground because we're sitting right against the surface. The problem is we have to use kind of code. We could do this rotation over lifetime where we animate the circles like rotating, but through scripting we have to get the face normal. So for now, we're just gonna have to kind of deal with them sort of floating like that in our game because this isn't really a scripting lecture. But yeah, overall, that's how you create rain and with little puddles. So we'll take a look at creating a few more particles in this module, but I hope you're getting excited about particles and just kind of looking at it. And we get different size ones that grow. If you want to make those smaller, I forgot I want to mention that last bit too. I know maybe that interests some of you too, is we could select their splash here and we could pull this down a little bit. And there we go. Come on. Let me, geez. And then when we go back in here and we select our rain particle system, you can see they're a bit smaller. So that's a way of doing it. And that's just playing with the scale over lifetime, which is this guy right here. So here's our renderer and then size over lifetime. If we just kind of play with that value, you can get different size little rings happening. All right, that's it for this tutorial.